Hi everyone, it is DJ Loco Lopez. I am here with another episode of the DJ Bit. I'm glad you guys are here, chilling with me. If you like what I'm doing, please like, share, and subscribe. It really does help the channel. It totally does. And I really appreciate it. You know, when I see those likes and those comments, it motivates me to do more on this channel, you know. It's fun to talk about DJ stuff, so anytime I can get together with some fellow DJs and, you know, discuss some cool stuff. Really? Okay. Breathe. Yeah, so anytime I can get together with some DJs and talk about some stuff, you know, it's all good. It's all good. So today's show is a topic that I've discussed with many other DJs before. I've seen a lot of DJs do podcasts on this and also make statements about it. So I'm just gonna get right into it with what we're gonna talk about today, and it's basically going to be about the sync button. So the sync button. Is it cheating? You know, that's a common question that we get, and it's a common theme that DJs talk about all the time. Is using the sync button cheating? And you know, I like to talk about it a little bit. So one of the first things I'll talk about is what the sync button is. For those of you that are watching that may not be a DJ, or you're starting off being a DJ and you're not quite sure what I'm talking about yet, but the DJs, the veteran DJs, and everyone else does know what I'm talking about, the sync button. So let's get right into it. Hold on, let me move this back here. All right, so what is the sync button and why is it used? So the sync button, when pressed, is used to match the tempos of two or more songs, usually like a BPM, a specific BPM, which is beats per minute, and two or more songs during a DJ's performance. The benefit of this is that the DJ does not have to take time to listen to the tempo differences by ear and adjust the tempo slider until the songs are in sync. Okay? So that is why the sync button is used. Okay? And there are a lot of people, just hit my elbow. There are a lot of people that believe, a lot of DJs that believe using the sync button is kind of a way to cheat, to learn how to mix. And, you know, I don't believe in that. And I'm going to explain to you why. I'm going to explain to you why. Because most DJs always talk about what, you know, if they're arguing against the sync button, you know, they just simply call out that it's cheating, or they call out that respect for the craft and you should learn the fundamentals. Like that's usually what I hear all the time. But there's a lot of other reasons why you would use the sync button. So let's get into it for a second, right? So the reason, you know, the biggest reason to use the sync button, it's a time saver. You know, it's a time saver. And in today's climate, as far as DJs go, when you think about us mixing live now and about what it used to be back in the day. All right, I'm going to describe the scenario, okay? Because I don't know if this is clear, right? Back in the 80s when I started, and I was beat matching by ear, back in the day, you had time to play music. You had long intros. I mean, you remember all those 80s songs? They had long ass intros. And there was plenty of spots for you to mix in after like the second verse. So songs were longer. You could take time. You could sit and listen. You didn't have any of the other things that DJs have now to make mixes, cue points, that kind of thing. They didn't have all that. So you could take your time making a mix easily. You could take your time. So you weren't in a hurry. And that's why beat matching was such an essential part of DJing. But today what we have is a culture of people that only listen to like 30 seconds of a song. So I can see where using the sync button is faster. It's faster for you because instead of messing with the sync slider, okay, you just hit the button and not worry about the mix because you've only got 30 seconds. You got 30 seconds to play the first tune, 30 seconds between the next tune. And generally speaking, you're kind of staying within a BPM range anyway. So if you're like between the BPM ranges of 116 to 120, we'll say, right? There's not much adjustment that you're making to get from one pitch to the other. So, I mean, that's just one example, but I feel like, it's a thing because songs are shorter. I know that's one of the reasons why sync is so popular is that, DJs are mixing. We're just on the whole time. It's not like it was in the 80s and 90s where you had 4 minutes, 3-4 minutes to get into your next mix. So I can see the advantage of sync. But let's continue on to the next thing that I want to talk about. So once again, one of the arguments that DJs use all the time is that beat matching is fundamental to being a DJ. And let me get into the purist philosophy here real quick. So here's the purist philosophy. I'm going to get my ugly mug out of there. All right. So the purist philosophy is that DJs should have 2 turntables, a mixer, a mic, records, headphone, amp, and speakers, right? So technically that's all you need, and if you're a purist, that's all you need to play. But that's not realistic today. It's not realistic. That isn't all that we have today. We have a multitude of different tools that we can use now. So that's a purist philosophy. So here, what are the tools that we're using? We're using Rekordbox. We're using Virtual DJ. We're using DJ Pro. We're using Serato. We're using DJ Pro from Algorithm, and we're using Serato DJ Pro. Okay, software. So if you want to talk about cheating, if you're going to stand up and say using the sync, but if you're going to stand on a soapbox and say that using the sync button alone is cheating, I got news for you. Using all these tools is cheating as well. Using any of these software platforms, it's cheating because I'm not carrying records anymore. I'm not having to sort through my crates, not manually anyway, with my hands. Okay, I can pull songs on the fly. So if you're a guy with a crate and you got a crate full of records and somebody asks you for a request, I mean, you'd know your crates, but you still have to sift through them to kind of figure out the which songs you're looking for. On any one of these pieces of software, you can type in what you want. And a lot of the DJs that are saying sync is cheating, they're using Serato. Of course they're using Serato. So you know, it just seems foolish to me that is the one thing that you pick out to be upset about, is the sync button. You know, it's kind of foolish to me. The other thing is, right, let me get my ugly mug out of there. If you use a laptop, if you use hot cues, okay, that's cheating. All right, laptop. Remember, all of our music we used to have to carry. We used to have to carry our record crates. We used to have to carry them into the club. I remember having like 10 cases of records, and I remember DJing at this place with a long ass staircase going up the stairs. Okay, it was a place called the Spanish American Club. I had to carry my entire DJ equipment, a DJ coffin which weighed 1,000,000 pounds, and then 10 crates of records, huff all those up the stairs, and on top of that, huff them up to the stage area, which was another set of stairs, and an amp, a heavy ass amp. Okay, so if you're carrying around a laptop and you're seriously a purist, then that's cheating. You shouldn't be using a laptop. But then the question remains, okay, so if we're not using a laptop, what about buying your music? Because not everything is available on vinyl. You can find a lot of it. You can find a lot of things on vinyl, but not a lot of it is available on vinyl. Okay? And then as far as the hot cues are concerned, if you're using hot cues, you're not picking up the needle and dropping it onto the spot, and you haven't taken the time to put little stickers on your cues where you want them on the actual vinyl. So using cue points is also cheating. If we're gonna go into what cheating is and what fundamentals are, okay? Because being able to drop the needle on the record, that's fundamental. Being able to carry DJ crates, that's fundamental. All of that is fundamental. That's what the originators of this craft did. Okay, so what are we doing? I mean, that's we are using technology, right? So let me get into the next part of the all right, so reality. All right, I'm gonna check reality right now. Let me first. Damn it, I didn't fix this again. It started at 4. All right, so this is supposed to be the last thing that I was going to point out, but it apparently is going to be the first thing. Only DJs care about it. Okay, only DJs care if you're using the sync button. That's it. Nobody else cares. The dance floor doesn't care. The people that own the venue don't care. No one cares except for DJs. Those are the only people that are going to judge you on using a sync button. Okay? Here's another reality. So the reality is you can't stay on one tempo all night long anyway. I mean, unless you're one of those like festival guys, you know what I mean? You know what I'm talking about? The knob turning DJs, the guys that are playing festivals in Europe and all that. And they're in the high BPM ranges all night long. You know, they're between 120 and 140 BPM ranges, but they kind of stay in the same BPM range. It's like repetitive the entire time. Unless you're one of those guys, you really can't use the sync button all night long. You can't, because you are gonna go up and down the spectrum of BPMs. You're gonna go down the spectrum of tempos. All right, you're going to be at the 116s for a while, but then you're going to have to drop to the 90s. Then you're going to have to go back up to the 100s maybe. So you're just going to be going all over the place. Now, within those BPM ranges, yeah, you can use sync, but can you sync all night long? No, not really. So as far as fundamentals are concerned, when DJs talk about other DJs knowing the fundamentals, if you are a DJ and you are using sync, fundamentally you know that you can't use sync during all of those crazy transitions, because you're not going to mix something that's, we'll say 70 BPM with something that's 100 and, well, actually you could mix with 140. double time, but that's something else. But let's say 70 to 105 or 70 to 110 or something like that. You wouldn't mix those two things together because it kind of sounds silly unless you pick the right music that can be sped up or slowed down accordingly. So I'm just going to say that. All right, let's get back to reality. So you can't stay on one tempo all night long, right? The next piece of reality is beat matching is pretty simple. It's pretty freaking simple, guys. All right? That's one of the things that I wanted to say is that beat matching itself is not that impressive anymore. Okay? When you think of all of the things that you could do as a DJ, the very least of any of those things is beat matching. Okay, now listen, it's important to be able to beat match regardless of whether you're using sync or whether you're manually adjusting the pitch control. Okay, you need to know when it sounds like a train wreck and when it sounds smooth. Okay, and you layer in phrasing and you're layering all that stuff into it, but I mean, at the minimum, you should be doing that. Like, that is the minimum that you should know. But once you know it, once you have done it over and over and over again, it loses its shine. It's not that big a deal anymore, to beat match. Nobody's looking at a DJ going, ooh, he got those beats all synced up. Like, it's really not that impressive. There are other things that are way more impressive, especially in this faster climate. So being able to select the right song at the right time, mixing as quickly as you can from one song to the next to keep the floor moving. I mean, these are all new skills that have come up that I would dare say some older DJs have a hard time with because, this is a progression. We're progressing here with DJing. We're not staying stagnant. Otherwise we'd all still be carrying records. We'd all still be marking our cues on the record. And beat matching would be, a big deal. But it's really not when you think about it. I don't think it is anyway. I'm not super impressed by it. So is it fundamental? Yes. Should you know how to do it? Of course. You should know what it is at least. You should know why you're doing it and all that. But once you get it down, it's old hat. It's just second nature. It should be. It's like being proud of walking. Okay, walking or riding a bike. When have you ever looked at anybody riding a bike saying you're cheating? You should really just be walking. It's silly. That's about how silly it is to me. All right, let's go with the next bit of reality here. For some routines, sync is a must. Okay. Now, this goes back to what I was just saying a few minutes ago, that in today's climate for DJs, we got about 30 seconds, less than a minute to get in from one song to another. And there are a lot of other fundamental things that we have to pay attention to. And there are a lot of new skills that we develop that we can put into play that are way more impressive than if I took that extra second to go adjust the pitch slider. Because that extra second to adjust the pitch slider and make sure that everything's in sync, okay, might take away from timing of a mix that I'm trying to do. It could mess up my phrasing on a mix. So, and it also could just interrupt the flow. So in a session where you're just going back to back and you're just killing it, you're scratching, you're opening up scratch bank, you're dropping cues, you're doing all this stuff. The least important thing, as part of the performance is to move the pitch slider. Okay, and for some routines, it's necessary. I personally have routines that, in order to do the routine, which the routine is more impressive to watch without me even adjusting the pitch. I mean, it's just going back and forth between all of the cue points and all of the different effects and the scratching and everything else. The beat matching part of it is the least impressive of it all, and I need that time. I need the time so that I can continue doing those mixes at that point in time. You know, so that's how I feel about that. You know, I just think that DJs focus way too much on these little things that really don't matter in the grand scheme of things. You know what I mean? Let me see what's the next here. All right, so I'm gonna get into my final thoughts here. I'm gonna get into my final thoughts about using the sync button. Okay, and I think you guys can kind of get where I'm at with the sync button. Okay, like I said before, if you're using any of the tools, if you're using cues, if you're using laptop, if you're if all your music is on a laptop, I mean, it's essentially the same thing. And I know how to beat match. I've been beat matching since the early 80s, and like I said, it's not that impressive. You know, once you learn that fundamental aspect of DJing, there's so much more to know. There's so much more. I'll give you a case in point, right? I knew a DJ that didn't beat match at all. Okay, he didn't beat match anything, and he was phenomenal. And the reason why he was phenomenal is because, you know, he would cut in and out of records, but it didn't matter if their BPMs matched because he never synced them for long enough, you know, for them to actually sync up and sound like a train wreck if they were gonna. He basically scratched and cut his way through the BPMs and never once really had to touch the pitch faders, but it sounded amazing. You know what I mean? So there are like so many other fundamental things that us DJs now do that are so much more important than worrying about sync. You know, music selection is huge. If you're not picking the right songs to keep those asses on the dance floor or to make them get up and start wanting to dance, or at least bobbing their heads, you know, vibing to what you're doing, I mean, that to me is way bigger of a thing to worry about than sync. You know, another thing is focusing on other aspects of your performance. You know, if you've got beat matching down, fine. You know, that's great. Let's work on something else. Let's work on better scratches in your routine. Let's work on better timing, better phrasing. Let's work on all of those things. Those are all fundamental too, you know, and they're going to really expand and make you a better DJ. And people just focus way too much on the sync button. It's just so odd to me that that's the one thing they pick when in every other aspect of the culture, they're also cheating. And some of the guys, some of the purists actually do work with vinyl. They do work strictly with vinyl. They can do an entire performance with them. And those guys are the rare few. And I'm just bringing up this video because, when you see new DJs, other DJs are always we're just always getting on each other about everything. We criticize everything that as DJs, what we do. We criticize our equipment, we criticize our techniques, we criticize, and by techniques I don't mean turntables. We criticize everything, music selection, everything. And I don't think sync is that big a deal. It doesn't take away anything from me. And I've always said it. I'm like half purist. Okay, I'm very progressive when it comes to DJing, but I do believe that you should know fundamentals. So do I believe you should learn how to beat match as part of your fundamental training as a DJ? Yeah, you should. Because it's only going to help you. It's only going to help your game be that much better. Because once you understand that, and once you know that, it just becomes second nature. And the other big things are phrasing and timing. Those are huge, because when those are off, the whole mix just is terrible. But yeah, I don't focus on sync. I don't focus on it. It's I use it. I do use it. It's a tool. It's available. Another thing, if you're using stems, you're cheating. If you're using that, you're cheating. Because back in the day, you had to know somebody and get vocals and get instrumentals, or you had, you bought the records that had the acapellas and instrumentals on them. Now you can do that on the fly with one file. So I just feel like it's the most foolish thing to say that, using sync is this big thing. I don't think that at all. I've seen DJs who can beat match, who are terrible. Okay, just terrible, because everything else about their performance is terrible. But according to some of the DJs that would say sync is cheating, at least they weren't using sync, and that to me is a cop-out. It's like not really that important. All right, that's my thoughts on sync. This video is going to be real short because there's really not much to say. Sure, learn the fundamentals, but work on your craft in every which way you can. Don't worry about sync button. Don't worry about other DJs telling you what they think and how they think everything should be. The fact is that we're not pure anymore. We have DJ controllers. We have Serato and other software, virtual DJ. We have all of that stuff. So we're not going to go back to carrying 10 crates up the stairs. We're not going to go back to queuing up records, looking at the grooves, trying to see the grooves in the light, or, marking it with stickers, or any of those things that we used to do back in the day. We're not going back to that. And that's all primitive. It's all primitive stuff. So work on your mixes, work on getting tighter, work on your timing, work on your music selection. Don't worry about sync. If you got to use it, if it's a tool that will help you get into a mix that you want to do, or help you through a routine, use it. It's fine. Who cares? It's only other DJs that are talking crap. All right, so with that, I'm gonna say thank you for joining me. Thank you very much. If you like this episode, or if you want to talk about sync in the chat, by all means, I welcome anyone's opinion, comments, anything. Just like, share, and subscribe the video if you really do like the content, and I look forward to producing more stuff for you guys. Anyway, take care. I'll see you on the next one. Have a great night, great morning whenever you're watching this. I'll talk to you soon.